Everybody trying to be content creators and trying to go viral. You want to go viral?
Okay, you want to go viral. Let's go viral then.
Say let.
Let go.
Let's embrace it. Let's love it. Let's enjoy it. And let's give them the experience of their life. That's Roswell for you, baby. Come together. And guys, this is Speaking Out Loud. I appreciate you guys joining us. Don't forget to share and dance like you just don't care. It's early in the morning. Let's have a day. And like I said, be a friend. Tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. Shout out PMS.
Shout out PMS. Good morning and welcome to Speaking Out Loud. I am your host, Rene Ruiz, and along with me is the man with the buzz, the man with the tries, the one with the broad chest, the one, the only, John Barba.
Yo.
Johnny, what's up, brother?
What's going on?
There you go. Welcome, Jay, the producer in the background. Appreciate you joining the show. Fellas, yesterday, hell of a game. But before we get into the Steelers-Miami game, just a quick announcement. Tim Foley will be joining us here at 6:50 to talk college ball. And then right after Tim Foley at 7 a.m., we will get our guest from the Albuquerque Journal, Sean Reider, will join us to talk Lobo football, the bowl game, and we'll get his perspective on Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia has been making the rounds on the news, and it's not in good nature. So we'll see how the Albuquerque community feels about Diego Pavia currently, and if he feels like he went from an underdog story to possibly being one of the a villain in this movie that we're in, or that we're living right now. But yeah, we'll talk that, and then we'll get his college football picks that we'll have this weekend. College football this weekend, playoffs. JB, pretty excited.
Yeah.
Should be fun, huh?
Some good football. Yeah, some good football. College football playoffs is always good.
And I will have to pay my debt this weekend, JB. I will have to go on a lovely date with our beautiful doll. We still haven't found a name for her, but you will see me Saturday afternoon at Buffalo Wild Wings for losing my fantasy football league last year. And the boys are holding the cash in escrow right now, and they're not going to release it until this debt is paid. So I got to do it. I do got to pay my debt. I apologize for making the boys wait this long, especially for something that just doesn't seem as bad as what I think it's going to be. It's not really going to be that embarrassing when I think about it, but it'll be a good time. So if any of you guys want to join us at Buffalo this weekend. That should be fun. But other than that, JB, last night, Miami Dolphins head over to Pittsburgh in a game that a lot of folks were already feeling doubt about the Miami Dolphins because of the record that they have in the cold. These boys have never won in the cold. I don't know if that's shocking because these boys are used to the beautiful weather in Florida. But last night, Aaron Rodgers, kind of came out, made himself seem a little bit younger. How do we feel about that game last night?
I think we kind of expected it, a cold weather game. Miami's just not. They just don't seem built for it. I don't know if that's a culture thing with Mike McDaniel, or if it's just these guys are used to playing in Miami, every Sunday, the good weather and all that. But you got to get out of that mentality. Pittsburgh did a good job of not allowing any touchdowns. They kept them out of the end zone until late in the game, and that's what you do. That's what you need to do to win. So. Pittsburgh defense without TJ Watt played pretty solid, forced a interception on Tua, made Tua have to try to extend plays, which that's not what he's known for, is extending the play and being a little bit athletic. Like, he's not really known for that. So I think Pittsburgh came in, did what they needed to do. Now it's going to be, 8-6. It's going to be interesting into the season. With these last couple games, and then with the Ravens with their last couple games, and then we'll see how this thing finishes.
And they got to play each other.
Yep.
The Steelers are a 1-game lead in the division over the Baltimore Ravens, and they still got to play each other. Last night, Aaron Rodgers goes 23 for 27, 224 yards, kind of winding back the clock just a little bit with 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf decided to show up yesterday, had himself a pretty solid game. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 55 yards, 1 touchdown. Not bad. But he did show he's there. We saw a couple that one touchdown where he had a slant across the middle, catching, breaking a tackle, getting a touchdown. That's the DK Metcalf we're accustomed to. I just wonder how much of this was with the Miami Dolphins, or it just being the Miami Dolphins. And like I said in the group chat, this Miami Dolphins team is very similar to feels real Dallas Cowboys like. An offense that's supposed to be has good wide receivers, has a solid running back, suppose good quarterback, and then they come out and still look like this whenever they play against a playoff team. It's unfortunate for the Dolphins, but all this stuff is starting to wind back up about Mike McDaniels in his press conference sounding like an absolute douche. Do you think the Dolphins stay? Do you think they ride out the Mike McDaniels experiment, or do you think that they probably move on from this offseason?
I know he's earlier, obviously 1-6, you're on the hot seat. You win what? You win like 5 straight, something like that. 5 out of 6. So you go 6-7. I think last night they just ran out of juice, and they did get beat by a better team overall. So the talks are gonna come up again. It's gonna depend on how they end the season. But I think it's 50-50 right now. I think it's up in the air. I think it's 50-50 because we don't know what's going to happen with some of these guys next year. Tyreek Hill, most likely, he's not coming back to this game, to this team. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with Tua, with his future. I mean, it seems like he's still going to be the quarterback over there, but who knows? Who knows? He did run Mike McDaniel's scheme good when he first got there, but now it seems like it's kind of fizzled out in a way. It's just not the same as what it used to be. Maybe that has something to do with Tyreek not being on the field, but Jalen Waddle can do that. You know what I mean? He can still take
Yeah,
up the
yeah, yeah.
slack. So I'm not too sure what's going on in Miami. I don't know what's going to happen this offseason. I think it's 50-50 right now if they bring McDaniels back or not. So we're going to have to see how it plays out in the offseason. He's not going to get fired at the end of the year or anything like that. I think it's going to come. It does come. It's going to come early in the offseason, around playoff time. So
It'll come at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think
see.
that if a decision isn't made by the end of the season, I think that they're going to stick with Mike McDaniels. I preferably would prefer that he team up with Robert Saleh and head over to Cleveland to fix that situation over there. I think that situation is fixable. They have a quarterback to work around. They got a young running back. They still got a solid offensive line, hell of a defense. Robert Saleh takes the reign of the culture and the defense, and then you just let Mike McDaniels cook and kind of play in the background. Because right now, all the shenanigans is fun, all the antics are fun at the press conference whenever you're winning. But whenever you start losing, JP, when you start stacking up a couple L's, the internet starts to have fun with you just a little bit. Let's listen into Mike McDaniels.
As hard as we tried, that was a little too deflating because we knew that was an important area of focus that we really wanted to be good coming out of that third quarter. It was a one-score game, and I thought that was a gigantic momentum swing. Had a couple opportunities on that drive and the following drive to make some plays, and we didn't make the plays. They did. As hard as we tried.
Dove Kleiman from at NFL_Dove Kleiman yesterday. The title says, "Yikes! Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel's post-game presser has gone viral, leaving many fans concerned." He said, and repeatedly. Is this an overreaction or this is just the internet having fun? Huh?
A little bit of a troll job, yeah. It's just that's what you're going to get out of McDaniel. So I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, funny stuff. Funny stuff. The internet's always going to have fun with it. Nate, I love how Rodgers just stands in the back on 3rd and shorts and hands the hand warmer off. Troy Aikman did point that out yesterday. Whenever they do the tush push, he kind of has the Michael Myers stance there in the background and hits us with a little angle. It looks cool. I agree with Nate. Looks pretty cool. Shout out Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you like it, right? You don't think about it. You don't think about it at all?
No, I don't think about it. I don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I just saw Aaron Rodgers. He looks cool. Like Nate said, looks cool. Looks pretty neat.
And looks cool when he's getting hit.
The only thing that stinks is when they don't get it. What was that?
It looks good when he gets hit, though. When he gets hit, Some of those screenshots that have came up with him just getting blasted in the
Oh,
pocket,
memes. Yeah,
man.
those are some
It
fun
looks like
memes for
he,
sure.
looks like his age is all of a sudden like 60, some of those hits that he's
Yeah.
taken.
With the Steelers, bro, do you think like they it feels like they spent all this money on the defense. It's one of the highest payrolls in the league on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they were buzzing yesterday. Cheech finally said he locked into a game, and they won. So maybe he continues to watch to see a generational run that the Steelers can go on. But like, are we concerned? Do we think Aaron Rodgers' age is going to show up? Like, it showed up a bit this year, and I don't know if that's because of the Steelers' offensive line that's just not giving him the time, or if it's more on Aaron Rodgers regressing. But what is your level of confidence for the Steelers in the playoffs, or do they even get in? I guess I should say.
I think offensive line didn't play too bad yesterday. I think he was pretty protected, I think, for the most part. Rodgers,
The
this
last
is
2
going to be
weeks. That's
yeah,
just yeah.
this is going to be Aaron Rodgers kind of. Father Time catches up to you. He's going to have good weeks. He's going to have so weeks. I don't think he's going to what he can't do is jeopardize the team. Like if they're playing good football and he throws a couple turnovers, you can't do that. Especially in the playoffs. If you could protect the ball and kind of be a game manager, but make those explosive plays when needed, I think this team can at least win. If they do get in, I think they could possibly win one playoff game. It depends who they match up against. It's going to be hard. I mean, you got the Chargers that are looking good, Texans are looking good, and the Bills. The Bills just romped them a couple weeks back. So it really depends. I just don't know if they're better than even the wild card teams. It's really going to depend on how this defense tightens up. If they can tighten up, I think we've seen a lot of what they are, and I don't know if they can change that this late in the season. And of course, without having a solid running game, that's another big thing in the playoffs. Especially playing in the cold weather like that, you're not going to be able to sling it around all day. So that's the issues.
You know
That's
what's
the
you know what's
issues with the
interesting, JB?
Steelers, huh?
Yep. We are better than the Cowboys and the Vikings. Yeah, not too
Oh,
far, not too far ahead, not too far ahead. And granted,
not
you
too
guys
far
went
ahead,
all in.
dude. Not too
We're
far
just
ahead,
having
dude.
fun
Not
out
too
here.
far
Yeah.
ahead.
Just remember, you went all in. You went all in. You paid DK Metcalf. You paid a bunch of old men on the defensive side of the ball, and now we don't know what Bosa's future looks like. I mean, TJ Watt. So that statement might. That's a troll job. I get it. It's fun. I get it.
It's
I get it.
fine.
But
It's
the
fine.
Pittsburgh Steelers to end the season, it is going to be a little bit rough. They got to go over to Ford Field in Detroit against the Lions this weekend, and then they have like somewhat of a mini bye. But I mean, it's a divisional game. They got Cleveland. That's going to be tough. So let's say they drop this game against Detroit on the road because Detroit's still playing for their playoff life, right?
Yeah,
So I think I would give the edge to. I think I would give the edge to Detroit on at home
I would
against
too.
Pittsburgh, and then
Huge edge.
that would be setting up for a Week 18 playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens, assuming that the Baltimore Ravens win out. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know that the Ravens win out either. Like, let's look at what the rest of their schedule looks like real quick. They're sitting at 7-7, one game behind. So if the Steelers drop that one, yeah, look, like theirs is even worse. I don't even know if they make it there. They got the Patriots this weekend. That doesn't sound like a good time, especially a team coming off a loss and also playing for the number 1 seed, trailing the Denver Broncos. And then they got to go to Lambeau Field and play the Green Bay Packers. Which what Packers team are we going to get? A team that's like beat up to the gills. Lost the offensive lineman this weekend. Obviously, lost Micah Parsons to the ACL. Christian Watson's questionable, and that's as of right now, that's the only existing factor on offense outside of Josh Jacobs for that team. So I don't even know if Baltimore makes it to Week 18. There's a possibility that someone at 9-8 in that division.
Yeah,
Really,
and the
it's
thing
crazy
is,
to think Burrow still had a chance at some point.
yep, and the thing is, Baltimore hasn't beaten any good teams this year. They have
Yeah,
not
I
beat
see that.
one good team this year. So I just think Baltimore is just not that good this year. I think and I don't know if Lamar's just playing bad. We don't know if he's hurt. We don't know if he's playing bad and hurt. We don't know if he's just getting washed? Like, what's going on with Lamar? That's a big question mark too. So yeah, last week they shut out the Bengals, but Bengals were already cooked. Like, at that point, you're playing for pride. So
See that
I mean,
that's the
it's
thing
going to
with
be
this.
interesting.
That's the thing with this Ravens team is that like
I think the
it's
Ravens could
so
lose out.
inconsistent.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Ravens could easily lose
they really
out.
could, but they could also win out. Like that's how confused because they obviously. I mean, they have talent. They have talent. We've seen that talent produce, and then now it's like, well, goddamn, are they ever gonna like? What happened? It's like. Do you remember Markel Foles from Washington in the NBA, like crushing it in college football, and then all of a sudden, or you can even say Ben Simmons if you want, then gets to the league, and it's like all of a sudden every critic in the world's like this guy's form stinks. Like they're gonna have to change his form, blah blah, and then they just completely forget how to shoot. It's like that's kind of it feels like that's what we're seeing with Lamar. It's just like what the hell? We went from a MVP quarterback to yeah, I don't know why a guy. It's like a guy that forgot to how to play football.
Yeah.
Like right now, like how me, it's like I forgot how to speak. I just keep
Yeah.
stuttering over here. Like it's great. That's how flustered I would be if I was a Baltimore Ravens fan. Like I don't know what's more frustrating, being a Cowboys fan or a Baltimore fan at this point, especially with the talent that you have, the moves that you made, and then with the coach that's been there for so long. Like it makes you wonder: will Baltimore move on from John Harbaugh, or will they continue to try to run it back with him? Like do you ever get to like it feels like they've peaked. They've won what they could have won with John, and now it's like, do we move forward? But do we move forward from a Hall of Famer? Is the grass greener on the other side? Because it's not always. It's not always. I mean, if it was easy to find a head coach, every team would be great at it, right?
Yeah. You could say the same thing about Pittsburgh though too. I mean, they won their
The
championship
same
like over
situation. They're
15 years
literally the
ago.
same.
So yeah, I don't know, but you've had more success. You've had more success if you're John Harbaugh. You've won playoff games. You've made it to AFC Championship. You've still had success. Maybe it's just a down year. Maybe it's just a down year. We've seen that it's a down year for a couple of these teams. Sometimes they got to rebuild. It's you at this point. I wouldn't consider Lamar to be like regressing or something like that. I think next year will be a big tell. Like I think next year, Lamar, you would expect him to get back to like his normal roots, what he does good as a quarterback, and you kind of like fill in the weak areas of your roster. Kind of like with the Chiefs. The Chiefs now I say that with Mahomes' injury, but I think going into next year, the plan was to rebuild on the areas of weakness, get that offensive line better, invest in a couple key positions that you need to not necessarily rebuild, but just revamp that roster, to make another run. So that's I think the Ravens are in that same category. Revamp the roster and make another run at it. I don't think you just blow it all up right now. I think just because of the questions with Lamar, the health, everything like that, it all starts with him, kind of, especially offensively. Defensively, the defense did improve a little bit over this past year, but you gotta revamp. You got to get a little bit younger defensively. Start from the D line, work your way back out. Maybe get a couple free agents in the secondary, something like that. But the secondary was really weak too. So there's a few things besides Kyle Hamilton. Marlon Humphrey, he has his
I
moments,
get
but
that defensive line. I think they got like 3 defensive line starters that just went out for the entire
yeah,
season. They lost their last one last week. I mean, this team is struggling with injuries, so I think you're right. I think you're right, JB, to announce you Baltimore Raven fans. Let's be patient. Let's relax. Let's calm down. The
you
fact
just
that
got
the
to revamp
playoffs
certain
are
areas.
still within reach is absolutely bonkers. But hey, maybe they get in. Maybe they get in this conversation that we have and that the media has been having about the Baltimore Ravens mean absolutely nothing because as long as you get into the dance, you have a chance. And the Ravens, with the talent they have around them, why not? Why not? But the Steelers are on their way. Speaking of quarterbacks, JB, there's a quarterback that's pretty well known around New Mexico. His name's Diego Pavia, and he's been around the news making the rounds, and not in a good way. So to talk about that, we're going to bring on our college football insider, our former UNM alum. This guy's skills with the ball was immaculate. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Foley. Tim, what's up, my brother? Wait, am I the only one, Jay? Can you hear him?
Hello.
Good. Good to go.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think
Tim,
those
what's up, bro?
claps kinda drown me out sometimes.
Yeah. The claps, dude. The claps drown them out.
Yeah,
How you guys
honestly,
doing
that's
this
probably. I
morning?
guess not bad, bro. But Diego Pavia, let's get straight to it. Diego Pavia, there's a perception of him being painted right now because of the way that he reacted to losing the Heisman Award. We saw him at a club where someone partaking in LED board that had F Indiana and Diego Pavia doing the whole antics, dancing around. Yeah, to me, when I saw that, I think that's a product of his environment. I think he's probably not surrounded by people that have his interest at heart. But what are your thoughts on what's going on with Diego Pavia right now? And if you could kind of set the table as to what is the news that's making the rounds for him?
Yeah, definitely. So, for those of you that aren't on the internet nowadays, I mean, I can't even scroll 3 posts without seeing a Diego Pavia meme nowadays. And unfortunately, none of them are good or positive. The thing with that is he kind of did it to himself. I mean, he didn't handle stuff like a quote unquote Heisman would, um, saying "F the voters." He started off with that, and then he had that sign at a club saying "F Indiana." I get it. You know what I mean? Nobody likes to lose, especially that kid. What people aren't thinking about and is in the forefront of their mind is Diego was a Heisman finalist in New York because of that chip he has on his shoulder. He's a New Mexico kid, 0-star recruit, had to go the JUCO route, won the national championship at the JUCO level, and then went to New Mexico State and then transferred to Vanderbilt. And the reason why he is who he is and he had the success he did is because he has that mentality of F everybody else. It's about me and my family. And when I say family, I mean his family and also the football team. So you can tell he bleeds Vanderbilt and he doesn't like to lose. And he didn't handle it the correct way. He probably could have gone it a better way, which he came out after the fact and posted what people are calling a chat GBT apology. But at the end of the day, man, he I don't think he was slighted. Just the way that Fernando finished the season and led that Indiana team to where they are as the number one team in the country right now. I mean, you can't beat that, and the Heisman voters showed that. I mean, he had like 5 times less first place votes than Fernando Mendoza. I could see him acting the way he was acting if it was a lot closer than that. But Fernando Mendoza, he ran away with that Heisman. And at the end of the day, he is a Heisman. And he had a phenomenal speech. There wasn't anything negative you could say about Fernando Mendoza. And I think that really puts him on that pedestal of being that Heisman Trophy winner.
Dude, yeah, this speech had me. A lot of people have jokes about Fernando Mendoza, about him kind of being a little too, kind of sounding like a teleprompter himself. He sounds like a Chat GBT brain himself. I mean, but it was cool. I thought the way he shouted out his mom, that kind of made my throat get a little, you get that little soft spot right here. And then hits his grandparents with a little Spanish speaking. Fernando Mendoza, not Mexican, which we thought weeks ago, whenever you had put him in the Heisman conversation. This is probably like week 3, week 4. Um, when we looked him up, he's a Cuban. He's shouting out all the Hispanic heritages, which was pretty dope. So shout out putting the Browns on national television on ESPN. But he is Cuban. And then obviously Diego Pavia being a Mexican heritage, which was pretty cool for us Browns. That was a good moment for all of us. So shout out to those boys. But do you think that the voters were somewhat swayed to Fernando Mendoza because statistics show that Diego Pavia had the better season? Do you think that maybe they were swayed away from Diego because of the antics?
I do think so. A lot of people don't realize that previous Heisman voters have a vote as well too, which goes greatly into choosing the Heisman. And there's a lot of old school guys that are there. You know what I mean? They want somebody who's going to hand the ball off to the referee when they score a touchdown and go back to the huddle. And at the end of the day, that's not who Diego Pavia is, and that's why he was as successful as he is. It's a different game nowadays. People who score and just kind of hand the ball to the referee kind of looked at as like quote unquote lame a little bit. I mean, now with you're trying to sell TV ratings, you're trying to sell your brand, make more NIL money for your family. So it is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, Fernando Mendoza was the Heisman Trophy winner before the ceremony as well too. I mean, that final drive against Penn State as well as against Ohio State. I mean, he was on the greatest stage in the greatest game and performed like a Heisman should. And I think that is what took away from Diego Pavia winning the Heisman more than Diego Pavia himself.
And let's ask a Heisman voter himself. We have joining us now an Albuquerque Journal writer from Michigan State, all the way from Michigan State. So good at his job that they brought him all the way to Albuquerque, Mr. Sean Reider. Sean Reider, am I saying your last name correctly there?
Yeah, it's Reider. Thanks for having me on, guys.
With me is John Borba and our UNM alum, Mr. Tim Foley. Appreciate you joining us, man. How'd you end up all the way from Michigan State all the way here in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Yeah, no, I was working a job in Michigan that was owned by a large corporate newspaper chain that was not always terrifically run. And I think 3 months into my job, maybe 3.5, they ended up cutting about 400 people nationally, and I was one of those people, and had to kind of bounce back, apply to like 80-something jobs, something like that, and Albuquerque ended up being the most inviting opportunity, and been out here since.
How have you been enjoying it? The city, the culture, what's that like for you?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm a Midwest guy, so it's very it was very new. It was definitely a real adjustment, but no, it's been awesome. I've absolutely loved learning a lot about New Mexico, learned a lot about the Southwest, and being able to travel through the Mountain West has been so cool. Definitely really cherish it.
How long you been following the Lobos for?
I really, since I started, you could maybe say a little bit before when I was kind of looking at the jobs. So you can kind of go back to, winter of 2022, kind of November and all that. And then I ended up starting in January 2023.
So you've seen the momentum slowly start to build itself up to what it is right now. How's that whole process been to experience from kind of somewhat the lows of lows, and then now you're kind of riding the highs of highs? How's that run been for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I remember coming in and, I remember applying to the job and that weekend, just kind of watching college football. And it was New Mexico, San Diego State. I don't remember if it was in San Diego or if it was in Albuquerque. And UNM was terrible, obviously. I think we all remember 2022, how bad that offense was in a lot of respects. Probably statistically like the worst offense in the country. And that for me, I was like, well, this is going to be kind of interesting. We'll see. But, 3 head coaches in 3 years, and just kind of seeing it get, a little bit better. And in this case, this year, a lot better every single year, going from Danny Gonzalez to Bronco Mendenhall to Jason Eck. It's been really interesting. And, seeing some of the changes in the athletic department too. And kind of the not to say that UNM ever ignored football at a certain point, but seeing the emphasis that they put on it now has been really interesting.
And they're putting huge emphasis on it. And now they started, me and Tim used to joke about starting to GoFundMe to keep a lot of these boys. And it seems like UNM kind of started their own GoFundMe account with the real ones. What's the word on the real ones dynamic when what's going on with all that?
As far as the way I kind of look at it is that it's basically just it's just another giving campaign in a lot of respects, and it's not too dissimilar to what a good deal of other schools have kind of done. It's just not being kind of funneled through like a collective, as it might have in the past with like 505s, SVF, and all that as well. It is. I think it is through. I think it's through the Lobo Alliance. I'm pretty sure. I should probably have that detail kind of ironed out, but. Yeah, no, you got to pull it up right there. But no, and I think it's something that other schools have been doing, and I think it's something that you're going to kind of see a lot of in a lot of respects. So I think the guys that have been announced, like Jack Lane, Jalen McIver, I think Booker got announced as well. Brian Booker, I'm pretty sure. Jackson Eck, obviously, of course. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, so for those of you guys watching, if you just go to that UNM link, the real ones, you can donate to the run, the generational run that we like to say, Borba, that this UNM Lobos can be on. What are the realistic expectations for you, Sean, for next year from this team? Not to just look past the bowl game, we'll get there here in just a few, but what are the expectations from this Lobos team going into next year?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to kind of think about because I don't know if there's ever been a point where UNM football in particular is kind of coming into a year and you could really say they're in the upper third of the conference in terms of resources and all that. Now, do I think it's kind of like as big of a gap between UNM and like San Jose State or Nevada as it is compared to like San Jose State and Nevada to like San Diego State or Boise State? Not quite. That's a pretty huge resources gap in a lot of respects, but I do think that element is really interesting to me. And all I've ever known, and all most Lobo football beat writers have ever known, and I'll have to dig around a little bit on this, is kind of heading in and seeing the preseason media poll, and they're always picked 12th or they're always picked 11th and all that. I think they're probably going to get picked, second, unless something really changes, and maybe first. We'll see what happens with UNLV. I think Calandria announced this week that he's coming back. So I do think in my head, UNLV seems kind of like the front runner in the new look Mountain West. But I think it's really interesting. And the schedule gets a little bit easier too, in the sense that they're not playing 2 P4 games. They've done that the last 2 years. That's been brutal in a lot of respects. It's a lot tougher than it seems, for sure. They only have Oklahoma in the out of the P4 teams in the non-conference, and I believe they have I'm not 100% sure. I'm still a little bit kind of locked in on this season to a point as well. But no, I think it's going to be really interesting for me to kind of see, and just one, how fans treat it, right? Higher expectations in earnest. I think there were high expectations for this season. Towards the end of Bronco Mendenhall's last season, then of course that all kind of got blown up. Now they're obviously, unless something really, really, really crazy happens, and I don't think it will happen. You got the coach coming back, you got a lot of players coming back, a lot of good players. They're going to look to add more good players. So yeah, I think there's going to be kind of a level of unprecedented excitement that I don't know that they've really kind of had since really maybe, I don't know, the end of the Francione era and going back.
Tim, you got something?
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. I know you've been following like football, not necessarily Mountain West, for quite some time. When was the last time you've seen a coach in their first season at a school have the kind of success that Coach Eck did this year?
Oh man, I mean, in general, like you'd probably point to like last year, like Signetti, like that kind of thing. Yeah, you'd probably point to that. Like it seems like the easy answer, and like it feels like Signetti is like the trivia question answer for like everybody at this point, like, and kind of the golden example. But no, I think and I don't think they're. Eck certainly is not afraid to kind of let his personality fly in a way that I don't think Kurt Signetti quite does. But no, I don't think they're all too dissimilar. I mean, they kind of emphasize the same things in a lot of respects, and I mean, there's definitely some. You would get into the schematic details, so you can kind of nitpick there and say how they're different. But no, I think I don't know if they're all too dissimilar.
Yeah, definitely.
And sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, and with you, with what you do with the program, how involved are you? Like, are you in the locker rooms? Do you travel with the team on away games and stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't go into I've never gotten locker room access, and that's still I've covered a bit of college basketball where you actually get some pretty good locker room access in certain respects. Actually, Michigan State was pretty well known for actually giving a lot of locker room access back in the day. But I do not. I don't do locker rooms. It's not really the norm in college football, honestly, compared to like the NFL and all that. I don't travel with the team, and that's something I prefer. But I do travel to. I think the only away games I've missed in this 3-year stretch were it was UMass my first year, which I kind of look back on, and I'm not particularly upset we missed that game, even though that was a UNM win. But that Western Carolina quarterback, that transfer was kind of crazy in that game.
Yeah,
and then Hawaii, obviously. But I think those are the only two, if I can recall, that I've missed. So we travel to pretty much every single game. Especially conference games and all that as well. But I don't travel with the team. I book my travel separately and kind of do all that. So I would say, pretty involved in a lot of respects.
Oh, that's really cool. So it's since you've been to all these games, specifically this year, what do you think was your favorite moment during a game or a specific game that really stands out to you?
Ooh, that's a really good question. My mind does go to, and it seems like the easy answer. I mean, kind of the second overtime against San Diego State, in a lot of respects, because my first year on the beat, the season finale was against Utah State, and I think I was kind of naive at the point. There was, and it was this blustery, windy, horrible Black Friday. It wasn't a great Utah State team. It certainly wasn't a great UNM team. By the fourth quarter, there was truly, there was maybe 400 people in the stands, all kind of spread out, and it looked terrible. And I took the video from the press box and just kind of put it out there, and that just kind of ignited like a social media firestorm. Everybody arguing about it, people quote tweeting it, doing all this. And I'm like, I didn't mean to start this. Like, I didn't mean to do this. And then you flash forward 2 years, and University Stadium is not sold out, but it's packed. And it's, in my opinion, that was a better crowd than the sellout game with New Mexico State. And I mean, genuinely, it was cool to see like it become like a real football crowd. Like, you got the rally towels and all that. I mean, it was pretty impressive. And of course, the San Diego State, they get oh my gosh, they had the false start, then the illegal snap, and then I think the other false start kind of backing them up. And then, I think I don't remember if it was James Newby or Carhu or Goo that had the sack in the second overtime that backed him up even more. But no, that to me I thought was really, really, really memorable. And I talked to a previous journal beat writer for UNM football after all that, and I asked him. He covered a lot more football than I had, and I asked him, hey, where does this rank for you? Like, where does this rate? And he's like, that's got to be like the best I've ever seen it. And I was like, that's pretty crazy in a lot of respects. But no, definitely that game. I do think, you kind of go all the way back to the start of the season. I thought I think the play's name is Beaver. The trick play touchdown, Dorian Thomas, DJ McKinney to Dorian Thomas gets Michigan, and hearing how quiet the Big House got was pretty unique in a lot of respects too. I think there's a lot of good moments, honestly, in the season to kind of go back and look on. But those are the couple that kind of come to mind for me quickly.
Hey, you talking about stirring up a little bit of juice on the internet there. You kind of you put out a tweet that said Jason Eck was being talked about with connected to Michigan. How real is that? It is. How likely is that to happen?
I don't think it's super likely, and I'll be honest with you. And that wasn't more so, like me reporting something that I had. Honestly, I have not heard, on my end, kind of stuff in the sense of, he's really interested in all this too. The sense that I do get though, and I know Caleb DeBoer kind of put that statement out there, is that, and this is no offense to Eck either, but I do think there is an element where, some of these bigger P4 schools, a school like Michigan, which is like a top 5 job, frankly, in a lot of respects, they've gotten a lot of things right recently. And of course, they just won a national championship not too long ago. I do think some of these prospective schools would like to see a little bit more of a body of work in some sense. Wisconsin, if that opened, might have been kind of the exception to that rule. If, in terms of looking at going after a guy like Eck, that seemed like a little bit of a no-brainer. Of course, that job did not open. But I do kind of get the sense that they would have to get, I don't want to say like all the way down the list, but like a lot further down the list in terms of guys saying no before they got to a Jason Eck. And frankly, I don't even know how much interest there is in terms of Michigan to Eck, right? I think Feldman is kind of the guy I really like with a lot of these coaching search stuff. Feldman usually has like good lists and he puts out good stuff. Feldman's one of the best in the game, so I always like to look at his stuff first and kind of run with that. But I did kind of think, and I didn't mean to incite anything, obviously, but I did think it was funny, right? You lose 34-17 to Michigan, all of a sudden it's like, hey, well, we'll take this coach, so we'll see.
If anything, it's a compliment on Jason Eck to be even on the list like that. It's for a job that huge. That's big I think that's big just for UNM in general, or for Albuquerque, New Mexico as a whole, that his name is on that list and that other people may be interested in a dog like him. What's your take on Jason Eck? How do you feel about him personally, just being around him? What's the vibe?
No, in a lot of respects, practically he's been really easy to work with. In that sense, I don't have like a lot of complaints, man. I mean, he is he is as same as he is kind of in front of the cameras as he is off it and all that. And that to me is a good quality, and that makes guys pretty easy to cover. No, and I think I knew coming in that he was a good coach. I don't think you kind of have the career that he does in terms of not only being, not only turning Idaho around, but being like a really good assistant at a lot of good FCS programs. South Dakota State. He was at Montana State for a little bit and all that. I do think, I kind of knew that he was a guy that he was a good coach. And I remember doing a longer feature about him, and I was listening to guys talk about him, and it was okay. This is a guy that's well liked and all that as well. But of course, seeing him, obviously do what he did this year in a lot of respects, it's kind of solidified that. I did not expect, I didn't expect by the end of the first season that, he would be linked to, all these jobs at one point, whether there was just a little bit of smoke or a whole lot of fire, usually a little bit of smoke. Didn't quite expect that. Didn't quite expect them to go in and pound UCLA in the Rose Bowl and all that. And basically, really, put themselves in an awesome position to make the Mountain West Championship. And I don't think he totally expected all that. But yeah, and he says what he means in a lot of respect. He can be kind of, he has a great way, in my opinion, of being like kind of blunt, but not like being particularly mean about it. And he can be kind of funny with it as well. So that definitely makes for an interesting cover. And it's certainly, and it's no disrespect to Bronco, who I actually liked covering. Bronco was kind of a unique challenge. It is absolutely night and day between from last year to Jason.
Is their defensive coordinator, Nowinski, has he been looked at by anybody, or is it safe to say he's going to be with us for a while as well?
I have nothing I can report on that kind of event in terms of, guys that, nothing I can report there in terms of, him getting interest and all that as well. I do know that, I think the only guy on the staff, excluding Eck, that isn't on a 1-year contract is the general manager, Bo Davidson, who came over from Memphis. He's on a 2-year deal. I do know the plan is all these contracts, I believe, expire at the start of February. And last I knew that they are getting, they're moving to get these guys compensated. Part of the new deal for Eck was they increased the staff salary pool. And I do believe, they're really pushing to kind of make sure that, hey, like we're going to redo these contracts, get these guys paid in that time period. So, but I don't have any, anything to report there. What I will say is that, Nowinski was a guy that Eck tried to hire when he was at Idaho, but just didn't quite have the timing in a lot of respects. Nowinski was coaching in the MAC, kind of doing all that then. He had just he might have been right at the end of his Miami of Ohio tenure, and then he went over to Ohio U and all that as well, and then, of course, Memphis. But when you talk to Nowinski about coming over, he said it was a no-brainer. Him and Eck have known each other for a long, long time, when they were GAs together at Wisconsin, so – and Nowinski loves Eck. So we will kind of see what happens on all that. But as for now, I think it would be a relatively good assumption to believe that he'd be coming back for another year.
Oh, these boys are running it back. It's going to be fun next year. I think expectations is now Mountain West Championship for sure. And getting this bowl win. What do you know about Minnesota leading into this bowl game next week? Playoffs start this weekend, but the bowl game is next week, correct?
Yeah, the bowl game is in 10 days in Phoenix, if I'm looking at the date correctly, and I think that is the correct date. Good. No, good Big Ten team.
Also, before you answer, when do you travel out there and the team?
I am in Michigan right now, so I'll have kind of a wild travel schedule. I will fly out Christmas Day at like 9 p.m. Detroit to Phoenix on a direct. I think. Yeah, Detroit to Phoenix on a direct, which will be kind of fun. And then get in late, get in late, check into the hotel, get up on the 26th, cover the bowl game at 2:30, and then I will cover the game and then head to the airport after, fly Phoenix to Albuquerque that night, get up the next day, the 27th, and then cover the New Mexico Bowl after, which is also a fun matchup. North Texas and San Diego State. Obviously, Morris isn't coaching, but I think I haven't heard. I think Mustamaker's playing, so that'll be pretty sweet. But no, what was the question you asked? I'm so sorry.
Are you traveling with the team as well? I mean,
no.
When does the team leave? Sorry, you just explained your travel schedule there.
Yeah, we asked Eck about it on on Monday of last week, and he said he didn't have the entire schedule finalized. It was just one day after finding out. But I believe it's the 22nd. I know they're going to do Christmas out there and all that. So I think it's the 22nd, maybe the 21st or 23rd. I would have to go back and double check that.
Cool. Tim, you got one.
Yeah. But a couple things. I mean, you were talking about kind of the attendance at that San Diego State game, which is I haven't seen anything like that at University Stadium since I want to say like 01 or 02. But I mean, in this first year, UNM, they were 6-0 at home for the first time since 1938. And then with the crowd attendance, I mean, it was the largest increase in attendance in average in the whole FBS. With stuff like that happening and Eck bringing that kind of electricity to University Stadium, what is a real expectation? How long do you think that we keep Eck? Because I mean, we kind of as UNM fans, we kind of had this big push for Bronco Mendenhall after his first season, and we saw him left after 1 year. So I mean, what do you think is a realistic expectation? How long do you think we get to keep him?
I honestly think at this point, and it's not like lock, stock, and barrel, like lock it in or whatever. Like I think the next 2 years is pretty realistic in a lot of respects. Again, everybody has, and rightfully, I think to a certain degree, has some relative angst about kind of the Wisconsin job, and if that opened again, and who would see, what would happen there. But I think the next 2 years, because of kind of the contract that they ended up redoing with him, honestly, it was like, certainly it achieved a lot of things for Eck, but I thought the school made out pretty well with that in a lot of respects, and I had some people kind of on Twitter saying, well, they didn't change the buyout. I think that's fine. They just re-upped the buyout, and it's the exact same buyout, but they just kind of refreshed the timeline. So it's still going to be $4 million for this year, heading into his second year, and they'll go to $2 million the second year after that, which is really his third total year. So I didn't think UNM got kind of banged up in this contract process at all. If anything, you see a lot of contracts like this where they kind of lower the buyout, but no, it's ended up working out pretty well for UNM to kind of make it through all this too. And of course, Eck is going to get paid. That was kind of one of the more important things as well too. But no, I would say probably in my kind of purview, I would say the next 2 years, honestly, I would be surprised if it was a little bit longer than that. I don't think he is. I think he's a guy that understands that he can be selective of opportunities. And I think he's a guy at this point in his career, honestly, that would be selective of opportunities too. But I do think, even if it isn't a carousel that is as crazy as this one is, I think he's going to have, suitors kind of calling and checking in on him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and another thing with retaining the coaches, retaining the players. I mean, being able to see Jackson Eck coming back and a lot of really key players. What do you think is the glue that's kind of holding all this apart? Because a lot of the times when you see like a smaller school with not as much success have it in one season, you see their coaches leaving, you see players leaving. We've seemed to be able to kind of retain those core players that we're needing to have a successful season this next year. What do you think is the glue of keeping all that together?
I think it's a mix of, I think UNM has a pretty good plan with all this in the sense of like the Real Ones campaign is like a good idea. Like, I don't have any figures on what the Real Ones campaign has generated to this point. But I do think, obviously, of course, this is kind of the rev share era. When those guys are getting announced as part of the Real Ones campaign, they're signing the rev share deal and all that. And that is, of course, that's going to be something that will really entice guys as opposed to, well, maybe I'll enter the portal and see if I could maybe get something similar somewhere else and all that. Where, no, I think that's working out for a lot of respects, too, in terms of just for these players, right? Like you have this deal here and, you kind of know what your job is and you know what your role is. And, you can maybe take a little bit of a step up too. And then I think, that's the more like cynical way to kind of lean into it in the sense that like, the UNM is taking care of those details. I do think though, like when you talk to some guys, there is, there's kind of a sense of shared accomplishment in terms of what was kind of done this year. And, a sense that they want things to kind of keep going as well in the next year. And I think that is something that's kind of gripping guys in a way that didn't quite, grab guys and, really convince guys to return in the sense of the 5-7 team last year. And then, of course, the 4-8 team under, Danny Gonzalez, right? Of course, he got fired and Bronco left. So there's different situations. But I do think 9-3 and really kind of giving UNM something that it hasn't had in so long it is kind of a little bit of a factor in kind of making guys stay around.
Yeah, definitely. I have
Sean,
I kind of a general college football question. How do you feel about these private equity firms kind of getting a hold of some of these large programs? Do you think that's good for college football, or do you think that's kind of the downfall of it?
I work in an industry that's been ravaged by private equity over the last like 15 to 20 years. So I'm not a huge fan. But I also I went to a university that, that Utah deal, right? I'm blanking on the name of the I don't know if it even technically got approved through like their board or whatever. I would have to go back and double check that because I did not follow up on Ross Dellinger's story on that. But I went to a university that honestly has a pretty similar deal with like Acrisure, right? It's just not quite as it's not quite the same terms and it's not quite the same scope, but it's pretty similar. I do understand it. I'm not the biggest fan of it in a lot of respects. I completely understand why the USC and Michigan with kind of the Big Ten private equity deal were really kind of putting their foot down, and that thing is, that thing's officially pretty much dead at this point, honestly, with some of the pushback they've gotten in Washington at this point. I think Maria Cantwell was the one from Washington that was really pushing hard against that. But I understand it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I do think it's really interesting to kind of read and cover. I would be fascinated to see how it could possibly manifest in New Mexico if it ever did. But no, admittedly, I am not the biggest fan of it, and I haven't quite been the biggest fan since it really started to come out.
Yeah, it's no longer college football. It's a semi-pro league. That's what it seems like it's going to. Can you make predictions? Are you allowed to? Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Are you allowed to make predictions?
Yeah, I'll make bad ones, but I'll make predictions.
All right, who's winning that bowl game between UNM and Minnesota?
Give me
Throw a score in there while you're at it.
Yeah, give me like oh man. I think most everybody at Minnesota is playing. I think so. I kind of have to double check. I would have to go back and look at when Flex spoke a little bit last week to make sure. Oh man, give me like
a homer.
UNM 31, Minnesota 28, something like that. Like something easy. I do think UNM is going to be really motivated to make this happen, and I think that's going to show up. I do like Minnesota. I think they're a pretty good team. Just didn't quite kind of happen super consistently, and they'll end the PJ Fleck bowl win streak. So put it at that. UNM gets to 10 wins. Pretty crazy.
And for you, last thing on UNM, is it safe to say I saw that they brought in a 3-star recruit as for the quarterback position? Is it safe to say that our quarterback's safe in the starting position, or they're bringing in like competition, or we're just developing?
It's a good question. I do think Jack Lane, we're talking about Lane, right?
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, I do think Lane is a guy that's going to be that I would assume he would be safe in the sense that, the things that he was chosen to be the starter for haven't like changed. He knows the offense really well. He makes really good decisions with the football. And those are the things I kind of value the most in this offense. But I would be curious to see how much of, James Lobstein, right, I'm not going to say unlikely to come back, but I don't think I'm quite expecting him to come back. He's a guy that'll probably need some legal intervention to maybe get another year of eligibility and all that. And Lobstein, of course, was the backup and kind of the change-up quarterback this year and all that, running the football. But Cole Welliver is a guy that we kind of, I don't want to say forgot about, but I didn't do a whole lot of writing or podcasting or talking about him during the season because he was kind of, third in the depth chart. And there wasn't a whole lot to work with there. But Welliver is a guy, honestly, in terms of watching him throughout the season at practice, that I thought has gotten really, really better. And I know some coaches are kind of pleased with him because he kind of came in, in the summer, was behind the curve. And I think he's gotten better. So we'll kind of see what happens. I do think it's more of a situation where it would be Lane's job to really lose. But I'm curious to see how they end up treating it going into spring ball.
Nice. And just to stay on quarterbacks, Diego Pavia, all the news on him right now seems to be pretty negative. What's the feel in Albuquerque for Diego Pavia?
I think that, like, honestly, I think there's a lot of interesting splits. Like, I think there's like Lobo fans that, like, of course, don't like him because he peed in the IPF, and that's a whole thing, right? Like, people don't forget that. I think that I have, like, had some fans reach out to me and they say, like, I'm a Lobo fan, but like I'm rooting for Diego because he's from Albuquerque. I think there's people that don't really have affiliations with either school and all that, even some transplants that, like, hell yeah, like, this guy's from Albuquerque, like, we're pulling for him. So I do think, and then I think there's kind of like, the older generation that saw like a Fox News article about like his Instagram article, and they were like, "This is ridiculous," or his Instagram post, like, "This is ridiculous." And those are the people that have been most vocal, emailing me and kind of making sure they're heard.
Get this man off my TV.
Yeah, more or less, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting splits, but I think he's always been. I think he's always been kind of polarizing in that sense. Yeah, I mean, I think he's always had that element. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different feelings, but I would say overall the general sentiment is there is kind of a, maybe not the warmest feelings across the board, but like there's a lot of respect for like who he is as a player, obviously.
Yeah, and you're a voter, right?
Yes.
How was your preparation for that? I know there's a lot of folks that are kind of saying that Diego got cheated out of it. Some people are saying because of his antics that might have held him back. But as a voter yourself, like where do you land on that?
I don't really care about I don't want to say I don't care about the antics. Like, it would be a problem if a Heisman candidate came in and he had, multiple domestic violence charges or something like that. Like, something really, really bad. And it's hard to imagine getting to that point, like a guy with like active litigation pending going to a Heisman ceremony. I don't know the last time that's really happened. But that wasn't something I was like really like kind of that wasn't like the lens I was viewing it for, right? Like, we always kind of had this discussion with the Baseball Hall of Fame that, there are guys that don't get in because of like Barry Bonds and stuff like that, because they weren't great dudes in a lot of respects, right? And I don't think that's I don't think that's kind of the thing of like the Heisman Trophy, but other people view it differently. I was a first time voter. I was kind of crafting my own approach to it and all that as well. But of course, like, I knew really by kind of the final couple weeks of the regular season that, that was when I was confirmed to be a voter. I knew Mendoza was a guy I was really, really looking at. Mendoza was really intriguing to me. Diego was a guy that I was really intrigued by as well. The Tennessee win, to me, and I think a lot of other voters, kind of took it to the next level in that sense. And there were other guys, Jacob Rodriguez ended up being my third place vote. David Bailey as well from Texas Tech was a guy that almost got my Rodriguez vote, frankly. I think Trinidad Chambliss, if he played the full season, I think he would have gotten a lot more Heisman buzz there, honestly. If he would have added just like 600 more total yards or something like that, it would have looked pretty good on the sheet for a lot of people there. So you kind of knew, and then Haynes King was a guy you were sort of thinking about as well too. So you kind of knew in the back of your head, like, this is kind of like the list of guys, right, that I'm going to kind of consider voting for, and understand like the one thing that I had a little bit of difficulty with was, unfortunately for some guys, like Diego didn't play in conference championship weekend. Mendoza did. Mendoza for sure benefited a ton from playing in that weekend. The fact that everybody watched the Big Ten title game, the fact that he had a pretty good game. He had, I don't know how much I value Heisman moments, but I do think, the moments that he kind of had in that game, or the one moment, like the long shot that he kind of had towards the end of the game, those certainly resonated with a good deal of voters too. But, I really, after conference championship weekend, I kind of sat down, kind of compared statistical profiles, which, tough when you're doing from like a quarterback to a running back, or, a linebacker, defensive lineman, or and all that as well, right? And for me, what I kind of valued, the thing that I kind of resonated to was kind of the idea of like how much, most outstanding player in college football. In my mind, that kind of like translates to me as like who elevated their team in the most, right? And I thought it came down to Mendoza and Pavia. I thought Mendoza, to me, and this was kind of thinking about Indiana last year, Mendoza to me really, like, the things that Mendoza can do, like the throws Mendoza can make, that really changed. That really changed the complexion of kind of this Indiana team. I thought he took them to a much further level than what Curtis Rourke had, and of course he benefited from the extra game and all that as well. But that to me was really what kind of stuck with me. even if Pavia had a better statistical case, which certainly something that swung me a little bit back to Pavia too. It was a tough decision. Like honestly, it was a tough deal, and like truly, like I saw some Vandy fans on Twitter. They were giving me some guff about it, and I'm like, I wish you kind of knew how tough this decision was because
For sure.
I don't know if you'd be giving me all that guff. It certainly it felt a little bit more like a 1A 1B situation than like a 1 and 2. And I wish you could vote on more guys. You only get to select 3 guys in the process, but both are really deserving. I was surprised, honestly, at how much of a gulf there was between Mendoza and Pavia in the final voting. That was way more than I kind of expected. But that's kind of my long meandering version, rambling version of how I kind of looked at it.
Well, he sent you a middle finger because you didn't vote him one. Go ahead, Tim. What you got?
Hey, Sean, why do you think a lot of people were talking about Rodriguez being a finalist from Tech? What, in my eyes, I would have rather have seen him there than a Jeremiah Love. I mean, Jeremiah Love being a running back I'm sure like everyone else has seen it. They were putting his numbers next up to Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel had more rushing attempts and rushing yards in his Heisman year than Jeremiah Love did. So why do you think the reasoning why Rodriguez was left out of that Heisman finalist would have such an amazing season he had, and especially comparable to Manti Te'o whenever he was a finalist?
Yeah, I think a little bit part of it is like it's Notre Dame, right? Like, and even if Texas Tech was like highly visible coming into the season in the sense of like, yeah, they got Cody Campbell and they got all this money and they built they bought they built the best roster money can buy and doing all that too. But I think there was a little bit of I don't want to say trepidation, but it's kind of harder to market a guy like a linebacker on that team, right? As opposed to a Notre Dame running back. Like that guy's always going to get played. And Love is awesome. Like he's a really, really, really good player. I took kind of a hard look at him. The back that I loved this year was Ahmad Hardy. I thought Hardy was awesome and out of Mizzou. So he was kind of the guy that in my head I was probably going to go with if I ended up putting a running back on the ballot. But I think Love, I don't want to get up and do the whole like East Coast bias and that kind of stuff too. But like, I do think a little bit of that might have showed up in the sense that people just were able to see Love more with Notre Dame and all that as well. But I think he's a great player. I'm not particularly mad that he was at the ceremony and all that too. I feel like I'm kind of like getting old because I'm always like looking at these guys and I'm like, oh, these great young men doing great stuff. So I don't know,
that's very relatable.
But so I think Rodriguez. I think you wish they had 5 guys there because I think Rodriguez was truly deserving of being there. I agree with
you. And Sean, before we let you go, I appreciate you coming on, man, and joining with us. Let's make a couple of picks as we send you off here. You got James Madison versus Oregon this weekend. Where are you leaning there?
Yeah, give me Oregon.
A team that a lot of us didn't think should be there, right?
I am. It's not the G5's fault that they're in. It's the ACC's fault. The ACC is the one that blew this one. If people, I saw Joel Klatt, yesterday talking about just making a fool of himself, talking about how the G5 shouldn't be in it and how the NCAA tournament in basketball is the worst tournament. Come on, man! Like, give me a break.
Let him know. Let him know.
Seriously, like, come on, man. Most no fun crowd in the world. But I give me Oregon. I think the thing to me I kind of think back on is that, they gave Louisville a good test, but Louisville was bullying them kind of on the offensive and defensive lines, from what I remember about that game, honestly. And I think Oregon will be able to kind of have it. I think both the G5 games, Ole Miss and Tulane, I feel like it's going to be like a good first quarter for like Tulane and JMU. And then
adrenaline.
Everybody's going to go on Twitter and take their victory laps. Like, hey, see, like, the G5 can play. And then they're going to get like outscored 30-0. And that's it.
Yeah. Bent over, smacked around. Tulane, I feel like Tulane does have a better shot just because of the whole situation with Lane Kiffin leaving and people kind of being halfway in, halfway out. It's going to be interesting how that one plays out. But you're taking Ole Miss based off what you just said there?
I will take Ole Miss. I do think I agree with you. I was able to see Tulane in person this year, and Tulane's speed in person really kind of rocked me. I thought that was really impressive. I was not expecting that. But no, I would lean Ole Miss. But yeah, I think I think Tulane has better odds against Ole Miss in the sense that they've already played them. They have some feel for it. Didn't go great the first time, but it's always hard to beat a team twice and all that as well. But I'll still lean Ole Miss.
Cinderella story.
Yeah,
no Cinderella story for you, huh?
And no Cinderella story. I'll lean Ole Miss.
The fun games: Oklahoma and Alabama. Where are you leaning there? Which is cool. The first week, for those that don't know, they're playing at home, so they get the whole college atmosphere experience, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. The traveling doesn't start until next week, which that's a whole nother conversation, which we can get into if you join us again in the future. But Alabama, Oklahoma, who we got?
My head says from what I saw and I think Jam Miller will be good to go for this game. I'm pretty sure. But my head says from what I saw in the SEC championship, give me Oklahoma. My heart says I saw a guy with a Roll Tide pin in the Denver airport the other day. So, okay, give me Alabama. Like, whatever. Like, I mean, that one I'm not going to say is like a true toss up in the sense that what you saw to Simpson in the SEC championship was so weird. Just some of the missed throws there, and Georgia absolutely had him in a blender. I do think Oklahoma could have similar success. Frankly, I think they could be able to kind of run with some of the things that Georgia did, but I don't know. I do like. I do really like the idea of Kalen DeBoer having a lot of time to prepare. I think DeBoer kind of understands, of course, with all the smoke that was coming around, like the Michigan job and all that too. That this is a huge game for him. Really, the biggest one he's had since he's been at Alabama. So I'll lean Alabama on this one.
It feels like Alabama has all the pressure on their end there. What about Miami, Texas A&M kicking off at 10 a.m.? That's a rough start time.
Yeah. This is one of the more interesting games to me, man. I think I don't know. Like, Miami's weird in the sense that they didn't play in the ACC championship. It feels like they've been kind of underrated in some respects and all that, but they're still really good on the offensive and defensive lines. Like, they have you could argue that they have top 5, top 6 offensive and defensive lines each. But I don't know. I will lean. Man, this is a tough one. I will lean. I'm going to lean Miami in this sense, and I think I'm very curious to see. Yeah, just give me Miami. I'll live with it if it's a bad pick, but we'll see.
That atmosphere for Texas A&M is absolutely insane. I feel like that, to me, you got to give almost the home crowd at least 3.5 points, right?
Yeah, but
it's going to be a close game. It's
been such a good year for A&M. You're just kind of waiting, and you kind of had it with the Texas game. You're just waiting for them to kind of throw up on their own shoes a little bit. You're just waiting for classic A&M to kind of come back, and I think this might be the moment.
Oh, Tim, anything before we let Sean go?
No, just thanks for your time, man. I had a good time being able to talk some college football with you, and hopefully we can have you on again.
No, awesome talking with you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Reider. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Sean, cool guy, man. That was fun. That was some good stuff. Hopefully he comes on again. And that way we can get into the weeds of the college football world. That way him and Tim can have a little debate session. That would be fun. But Tim, you'll be joining us back on Thursday, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that way you can give us your picks and you can give us the in-depth insights on these 4 matchups that we will have this weekend. Will we have a Cinderella story? To be determined. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys rocking with us this morning, and shout out to Sean for coming on. Borba, thanks for joining the squad today. Appreciate you, Tim. Appreciate you for the interview, brother. And Jay, appreciate you there in the back. We'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk a little fantasy football and flip the page into Week 16 as we start getting into the playoff season for the NFL. We'll see you in the morning. Don't forget, be a friend. Tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. Shout out PMS. See ya. All right, boys.